Okay, good afternoon. It is Thursday, March 20th, 2025. This is the House Appropriations Committee, and it's just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are hearing the second to last of 4 bills that we're listening to today. This current one is H-167, an act relating to establishing the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters grant at the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. And so we have Deputy Chief Counsel Mike O'Grady here. Mike, if you want to come take a seat at the table, we'll start with you, and then we'll have James Duffy present the fiscal note. And we have Representative Michelle Boslin who's the bill reporter from the Ag Committee, who is here to answer questions if we have more after all that. So, thank you all.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike O'Grady. I'm with Legislative Counsel. I'm here to report on H-167, an act relating to establishing the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters grant at the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I'm sure many of you recall you often appropriate money to the food bank in the big bill to provide food services, food supply to Vermonters across the state, as they are one of, if not the only entity with that statewide presence. What the food bank is looking for is to be basically part of the Agency of Agriculture's budget and to have a grant program established at the agency so that they have that predictability and surety of getting a grant, getting appropriations, and providing the services that you have asked them to provide almost annually for the past 5 or 6 years. So what this bill does first, it has a finding section which relates to food insecurity across the country and in Vermont, and how local food purchased from Vermont farms, every dollar spent contributes an additional 60 cents to the local economy. Vermont Food Bank has been administering the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program since 2018, injecting $9.5 million into the Vermont ag economy by purchasing over 5.7 million pounds of local food. And the General Assembly should ensure the continued operation of the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program by the food bank by establishing a grant program at the agency to provide ongoing annual appropriations for the program. So there's the findings and the rationale behind the bill. Page 2, line 3, section 2 establishes that grant program. It's in a chapter of law related to basically supporting Vermont agriculture. There is a definition of local food that the Attorney General uses for basically ensuring when people advertise something as from Vermont, it is actually from Vermont. It is a pretty long and involved definition. I can read it to you if you would like.
I think we're fine.
Okay. Then there is the actual creation of the program, page 2, line 8 through 10. And the purpose is to purchase local food directly from Vermont farms, to distribute through Vermont food banks, distribution channels, and to offer subgrants to Vermont Food Bank's network partners to buy directly from local farms of all sizes, a variety of ag commodities and products.
Oh, actually, no, you keep going.
Okay.
I will ask.
And to offer subgrants to Vermont Food Bank's partners that buy directly from local farms of all sizes with a focus on providing culturally preferred food through local relationship. The food bank, after consultation with the secretary, reports to you annually on the implementation and administration of the program. Here on page 3. The report includes the total amount purchased with grants, the total number of farms purchased from under the program, the total number of sites where food was purchased from, and if the grants involved farm shares, the total number of shares. And when they report, the information regarding persons receiving assistance shall be provided in a form that does not disclose identity to basically not create a disincentive for receipt of a benefit. And then there is the appropriation. In addition to other funds appropriated in FY26, there's $2 million from the general fund to the agency to implement the program. The agency may use up to $67,500 for implementation and administration of the program. And that would go into effect on July 1.
This is a relatively straightforward bill compared to some of the ones we see. So, do we have a question of, yes, go ahead, Tom.
Just to be clear, so we appropriating money directly to the food bank, but now we're pulling it back in so that it's a program housed at agriculture specifically for the food bank.
Yeah, and it will be part of the governor's proposed budget annually, instead of you doing it on a case-by-case basis. I think that,
So accepting that this is the program that's been supported since 2018, is that right?
Yep.
And, but up until now, that's been one-time monies that.
you literally directly appropriate money to the food bank in the big bill for these purposes. And instead of doing that, you're now running it through an agency, which is actually the appropriate way to do it.
Right, so this is correcting the
Right.
process that the way that we prefer it, which is to go through an agency rather than directly to a nonprofit.
Right.
And what would the, are you aware of the past 2 or 3 or 4 years of what we've appropriated?
So I have looked at that, but I can't recall that. I can't have that information.
Joint fiscal, so maybe they have that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, wait,
So given that this is going to food bank, what's the necessity of having the two above the appropriations, the one the secretary, the protections so that people aren't identified as part of this?
Could you repeat that?
Well, individual people aren't going to be doing this. It's going to be going to food bank. So why is it necessary to have a non-disclose in here for?
But it could go directly to farms. There could be purchasing directly from farms underneath these grants. And then the sub grants, you might have similar information collected as part of the grant. You know, when you do the grant programs under 3.5, you're supposed to collect a lot of information from the people, including their fiscal information. And so that information would remain, it's not confidential, it just doesn't.
Right, but you're protecting the people, the farms that you're buying stuff from.
Right.
So I can't see the nexus between the food bank receiving it and then getting any information from any individuals. Maybe it's nothing to.
I do think there's opportunity for that household information to be part of this program. And so this is just to ensure that that doesn't get disclosed.
thank you. Don't go away, but thank you. Okay, we have James. And Aaron handed out the fiscal note. Don't you like these ones?
$2 million here, $2 million here. We did spend a lot of time.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
For the record, James Duffy with the Joint Fiscal Office, here to walk through the fiscal note for H167. This is a relatively quick one. Mr. Grady just did a great job walking through the bill. Fiscal Office has reviewed the bill, has identified a simple fiscal impact from this bill of $2 million, which reflects the appropriation that's contained in the bill directly to the Vermont Food Bank. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. I know there was just a question as to what the appropriation has been to the food bank through previous budget bills. I don't have the information in front of me just now, but I imagine I could pull it up relatively quickly, Madam Chair, if you'd like me to share that information with the committee in the next few minutes.
Would be interesting, and maybe Representative Boslin could come and sit next to you while you're looking that up, and I have a couple questions for her. Yeah, come on and sit up and take notes. Thanks, Michelle. And you mind introducing yourself?
Michelle Boslin from the Agriculture, Food Resiliency and Forestry Committee.
Thank you for joining us, all of you. So there was a section in the bill that talked about sub-granting to network partners. Would that be the food grant bank doing it or the agency of ag doing it?
The Agency of Agriculture gives the money to the food bank. The food bank then distributes to the community partners, which would include food hubs and then also many, many different local food shelves and other sub-grantees, which can include farms that give out CSA shares and things along those
Okay,
lines.
so I'm thinking in my county, we have something called HOPE, Helping Overcome Poverty's Effects, and they run a food shelf, so they might get something from the food bank to
Absolutely.
buy local food from local farms in the area.
Absolutely. There were over 300 community partners and I think 299 farms that were supported. So lots of lots of money is going out to lots of folks.
Okay. And was this a committee bill?
It was not a committee bill. It was submitted by a former committee member and it passed unanimously 800.
That was my next question. Go ahead.
It was one of our committee priorities.
Okay.
This looks like it's structured out in one. No,
Our understanding is that the bill has been, every year, there has been some funding that went forward for this program in the past. I believe last year it was $1.3 million that ended up getting assigned to them. But what we really would like, especially because of the large uncertainty in federal funding, which is negatively impacting so many of our farmers and people in terms of food insecurity, is we want it to be part of base funding. So the idea would be, this would be $2 million that's going to be going in every year. And we know that the farms can count on that. And we know that the people who are accessing the food can count on that. And it's really important that the funds that we've been relying on are being cut in a very substantial way. So that the state funds are really important to keep these kind of programs going.
okay, so separately. Trying not to get my arms around. Not that we've done anything with it yet, but there was a request for, I think it was 1.75 million ongoing for emergency management to have food supplies available. And then there was an additional $3 million request, I think, give or take, in our budget. And I'm trying to, is this in place, or what did in place of those requests, or is this in addition to?
Oh, the food
I believe
bank.
those are all different individual requests. So right now, I'm just speaking to this particular program. Those other programs would be different allocations.
We had advocates in here, during our public hearings, and they talked about 5 million for the food bank. There were 3 different appropriations they were looking for. And one was to go to emergency management, to have stuff ready in case there were emergencies.
Yep.
One was just to straight out give the money to the food bank for their ongoing operations.
Yep.
And I don't remember what the third one was.
It might have been the 2 million. I mean, because this has been their ask.
This bill was part of the 5.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Okay.
Okay, and I have something here about one-time money from the history of the food bank. Well, yes, I'm sorry, general fund. It's a little confusing because we had ARPA money and we had COVID and people needed to eat. So that would be comparing apples and oranges to compare those years. In 24, we did 3 million general fund. I wonder if that was some related ARPA. It says general fund, but I don't. It was general fund? And 23 was 2 million ARPA, and last year was 1.3 million general fund. It was on the contingency list in the big bill, and it was able to be funded because we had enough to fund it. So that's what, so it's always been one time.
It's always been one time, and with the number of situations where funds are being cut, it's really hard. And we have we just heard testimony today, $1.7 million that farmers were counting on has been cut from the federal budget mid-year. When, so people that were planning on being able to do things this spring, they don't have the funds for that anymore. And we've lost hundreds and hundreds of farms because it's so hard to make it as a farmer already. And as an agricultural state, our farmers are really in trouble, and a lot of people are food insecure in a way that's really troubling.
Not great, but thank you. It's not great. Does anybody have any other questions about the bill? seems pretty straightforward. Yes.
So the bill itself is very straightforward. I mean, it's a correcting the way that we feed this program, fund this program. It's, they also have a crop cash program that wasn't funded. It was last year's, which we have right now in draft.
Placeholder, right.
The 300,000, which is what was appropriated last year. The difference between that fund and this fund is that this one's grander, it goes to more farmers, it's available in more places for people to use it, whereas crop cash, which has been a very successful program, is available for people at farmers markets.
Right,
So it's getting to that same idea of farmer markets, fresh food, freshly picked food being available to people with EBT cards and able to purchase food. This is a little bit larger program.
right.
So I just wanted to clarify as we
We should-
start talking about the differences, when we start talking about what are the impacts in making food available to people to need it. I just wanted to point that out.
No, that's good, because there are a lot of requests that are kind of all related to food. And it's probably heard, we won't be able to fund all of them. So it's helpful for us to understand what the nuances are of the different programs, and then that will help us make the make. And have you been talking, has your committee been talking with the agency about some of the grants, the federal grants that they've lost?
Yes.
And we've been,
Yes. There are many. It was, the USDA cut $1 billion out of the federal budget, and a lot, there are many of those programs that are Vermont farmers and Vermont people who eat we're relying on. So it's very tough.
yes, we're starting to see more of that. Anybody have any other questions about the bill? Okay. We will figure out what we're gonna do with all of your committee's requests, and, we'll let you know what happens.
Okay, well-
Will be our reporter from here, and he's been in contact with your chair, and we'll see where it goes. So thank you all very much. Thanks for the work you've done.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Maybe, we have, the next bill isn't until 2:30. So we're not gonna break till 2:30. Why don't we break for about 15 minutes? If people need to go to the cafeteria while it's still open and get things for tonight, or whatever, cookies or whatever you need.
Need for nourish.
But yes, however you define nourishment, we won't have a discussion of that. And then why don't we come back at 1:45 and we'll go back to the budget bit.